Welcome to Raregivers 2023. I'm Crystal Barrett O'Loughlin from Angel Aid, and we are here on day 4 to speak with one of our most beloved caregivers in Australia, Kris Pierce. I'm just going to share with you a bit about this global campaign, our Global Festival of Wellness, so you have some context of this conversation. Angel Aid is, in fact, a global nonprofit network. We provide personal connection and emotional support to patients, parents, and professionals in the rare, chronic, and complex disease communities. It's our desire to eliminate the isolation and the overwhelm that is felt by so many rare families and to deliver daily compassion and relief. It's our stated goal to support 3.5 million rare givers by 2026. As you may be aware, if you've participated in our Give campaign in the past, we do have various different donation levels, and we invite you to take a look at our donation guide here. If you're a Microsoft employee, please be sure to donate via Benevity. Microsoft employee donations are matched during October Give Month. And if you're donating outside of Microsoft, you can do so at angelaidcares.org/give. Every donation makes a huge difference, as does every share out into your community. We want to spread the word that our services are available globally, that we are addressing a very specific market called the rare disease community. There are more rare diseases than AIDS and cancer combined in the community. In fact, some say over 10,000 different kinds of rare diseases affecting 350 million people across the planet. What is profound is this reality of zero cures, and it's what I call empathy math. 350 million patients times zero cures essentially means we have a global mental health crisis on our hands. That's what I've been addressing with Kris Pierce and others in a collaborative philanthropic endeavor called Raregivers. And our Raregivers movement ties to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 3 that really demands good health and well-being for our global community. And Raregivers, I'm delighted to say, we've been delivering well-being for quite a few years now. We have over 15,000 patients and caregivers in our community. We've assembled a world-class organization of 22 psychologists and practitioners. And over the last 5 years, we've delivered 21,000 hours of wellness training through our Raregivers efforts. If you wonder, what are the things that we talk to our community about? We are all about witnessing these very, very difficult experiences in living a medicalized life, and witnessing tools like the Raregivers Emotional Journey Map are ways that we provide those witnessing experiences. So grateful to all of our small sponsors and partners that have helped us come into this rather large community. We're continuing to grow every single day. We're grateful to our industry partners. We're grateful to our specific patient associations and foundations, including for Australia, the SCN2A organization, as well as the Epilepsy Foundation of Australia. So Kris is going to be talking to us more about those organizations and why they've come together with us to develop these tools and to release these programs. But I also would like to say thank you to the many, many volunteers and donors who make our work possible. We have a really beautiful partnership with Microsoft employee volunteers who have launched our website, have launched our mobile app, and have done many of our language translations, and so many donors. In particular, for this program, we'd like to thank Dr. Emil Kakas, and we'd like to thank Stephanie Buscemi, who provided the initial funding in order to deliver on this program in Australia. Uh, in addition to the Australia retreat, last year we were able to launch our Mexico City retreat, and for the very first time, a retreat program for men in California. So many, many firsts in 2023. And I'm here now to talk with Kris Pierce, who is just become a dear friend and is a well-respected leader in her country and around the world. Kris and I met through our position on a global advisory council many years ago and realized very quickly that we're like-minded. We believe in mental health and wellness. We believe in bringing this emotional reliefs into the community. And so I'm going to stop sharing and just welcome Kris into this discussion, and then we'll have there she is. Hi, Kris. Oh, you're muted. We'll hear you.
Good morning from Australia.
Good afternoon from California. It's so good to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to see you, and it was good to catch up recently when I was in California, so it was good.
Yeah. And so, so please share with this community and our listeners your story, your backstory. What brought you into this passion with a purpose?
Yeah, thanks. So I have 21-year-old twins, which is kind of scary for me to say that I have children that old. But I have a son. One of my twins, Will, has a rare genetic condition called SCN2A. For 14 years, we didn't know what that condition was, so we sat in the unknown for a very long time and just I guess managed each day as it came, and all the new nuances that he had in his health that we really had no answers for. It's not an easy place to be as a parent, not having a diagnosis and not really feeling like you're able to help. And his condition, SCN2A, can be quite complex, but also medically challenging. So we were often having to provide emergency medication and life support at home when he had life-threatening episodes with his epilepsy and associated to the SCN2A genetic change. And so it was very stressful. Our household, when my children were growing up, was very anxious driven because we just never knew what was around the corner, whether he would still be with us today, because we were certainly told when he was younger that he would not be. And when he was quite young, we would send him home for palliative care. And not at any stage across the lack of diagnosis, or even when he got a diagnosis, were we ever offered mental health support. We were not asked if we were okay. We were not, it just wasn't part of the, I mean, Will's medical plan was pretty, was pretty light in terms of, like, people didn't know what his condition was. So, his medical plan was very, take it as it comes. And so there was not really a wraparound service for him. So, add-ons, looking at the family or the siblings, was not even part of the picture. And once Will had a diagnosis, we dived into what is it we can do in this space, and so set up SCN2A Australia to support families here with SCN2A. And part of the really heart-wrenching part of that is that families 20 years down the road are still facing the same challenges that we did, because rare diseases just don't, they don't hit the radar of policymakers, decision makers, government, are not going to provide SCN2A families with the support that they need, or that is comparative to more common conditions. And so I looked at, what can I do? What can I do? And I met you when you talked about the programs that you were doing in terms of supporting caregivers that, face and support children and family members with rare conditions. And I thought this is something small that I can get involved with and try and bring it to our families in Australia. And that's how we got involved with Angel Aid and have really forged a great international collaboration where we're, I guess, using your expertise and adapting it to our local needs.
Yes, yes, thank you. Gosh, Kris, your journey has been unimaginable. And at some point when we started talking about collaborations, it was around the time when COVID had hit. We realized, we'd been offering many of our mental health support services in person, and that we needed to digitize and we needed to move to a fully virtual model. And you actually participated in our first global wellness retreat. And I'm just wondering how it made you feel initially to go through that in concert with other caregivers, other rare mothers specifically, that were not from your son's disease community at all, actually from completely disparate disease communities. What impact did that have on you to be part of that experience?
It's really interesting because we've been talking about how can we bring this to Australia, and I remember the first session of the retreat. I went in with, I'm here as a professional. I'm here to learn, to see what this is going to look like when we bring it to Australia. And after the first session, I ripped that hat off and said, no, I'm going to sit in this space as a caregiver, and I am going to soak in every piece of this for myself, because I quickly realized that I needed it personally as much as I wanted to bring it to our community. And I guess, to your question, like, what was it like sitting in a space with people around the globe without the same condition? And the main thing was, and this is what we found with our retreat, is connection. And it reduced, reduction in feeling so isolated. And just that there's so many common threads that we face. And then as a result, the impact on our own well-being, whether it be mental or physical, doesn't, it crosses borders, and it crosses diseases. These challenges are not specific to SCN2A or any other rare condition. So for me, it was, I'm not the only one. It's okay for me to admit that this has had an impact on me, and I've probably been a little bit reluctant to do that, but more so in the last few years, probably since being part of this program and working with you. But then also, really starting to sit in that space that it's really not okay that families are not getting the support, or even the acknowledgement that the impact it's having on them. And that's why, I know we're going to talk about Emma Palmer and her work, but that's why it's so important for us to work alongside, key professionals in the area that can support the validation of doing these caregiver retreats and other activities in this space.
Right, right. And so here we have this lived experience. You have lived experience as a mother caring for Will, and I have lived experience as a sibling, having lost 3 of my 4 older brothers to a rare disease. And siblings are so often a part of this experience as well. Can you talk a little bit about the impact that living with a rare condition has had on the whole family mental health dynamic, and what you've been able to learn in the relief that came from being witnessed, from being connected, from recognizing the importance of your own mental health and well-being as an individual? How have you been able to bring that back into the family?
Yeah, so I think some of the main messages or the main sort of learnings from me from the retreat, which I've tried to share with family members, my immediate family members, and also probably my dad. My mum is in a nursing home and is physically with us, but she has dementia and doesn't needs full care. So my dad is sort of living that caregiver role as well. But just really finding those micro moments in the day, and just taking time to acknowledge where you are and what it is you need, and just being really aware that we can do that on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, if need be, and just working out what those pieces are for us. And so I've worked really hard, probably not too much to the acknowledgement of my daughter. Not that she doesn't acknowledge it, but I've probably just done this as part of, my parenting now, is teaching her how to, fill her own bucket. And when those days where things are tough and things are getting the better of her, what things can she bring in? What are those self-care things that she can bring into her life as a sibling, but also just as a young adult? And so they're the sort of things that I've been able to, I guess, spread out through the family. And my dad, bless him, he's gone off and got counselling for the first time as a 83-year-old, and he's found, he's really been able to utilise that new experience for him in having someone that's going to listen to him and talk him through. And I'm just so grateful that I guess my learnings have sort of rubbed off a little bit on him, and that he's taking care of himself as a caregiver, I guess, in a different space, but again with the same impact on him.
It's so interesting because we hear this time and again. Caregiving is a chronically stressful, inducing experience, right? And whether we're talking about military and veterans caregiving, or we're talking about senior care and Alzheimer's and dementia care, or we're talking about caregiving with our children in a rare, chronic, and complex condition environment, it's a similar journey in terms of recognizing that you are this separate individual from your loved one, and that you're worthy of the same loving and attention and giving, and really need to be giving of yourself and tending to yourself so that you can sustainably continue to care for others going forward. I think one of the challenges that you and I identified early on, because we have this lived experience, but we also have professional experience, is that we almost have to defend the data. We have to defend that there is an emotional need, even though it just seems so obvious. Like, really, we've got to show you the data on this? Like, let's use some common sense here. But we decided early on that let's bring the sustainable caregiver, let's bring the Raregivers emotional journey map and the discussion guide. Let's bring these tools into Australia. But when we do it, let's make sure that we're measuring the outcomes. And
Right.
and so, we spent week after week, month after month talking, engaging, really circling the wagons with, you mentioned Emma Palmer from University of New South Wales and Sydney General Hospital, and just these networks of support, data-driven individuals that we needed to fund. So we knew we needed initial seed funding, but we thought, well, we better define first what it is we're funding. So talk about the data side of this, because this is really important and transformational for the program going forward.
Yeah, thanks. So the essentially, we need to evaluate. We need to, I guess, to your point, get some data around what are the positive benefits of running programs like that. You and I both know anecdotally that this is having a positive impact. We hear it every day within our retreats. There's so many rich quotes and comments back from the participants in these programs that this is working for them. But how do we show funders our philanthropic partners, that the outcomes are real and the benefits are needy. And that's where we rely on our partners at University of New South Wales and the group at Child Unlimited, who have set up a research program that's evaluating the Australian retreat. And this is based on previous research that this team has also done through Suzanne Nevin, who did her PhD looking at the impact of complex epilepsies and on the caregiver. And so we've got that background research that says this is a real need. This is not, this is not something that we're just hearing. This is based on research. So we then wanted to implement the caregiver retreat and measure it. And so, yeah, the team at UNSW, supported by the Epilepsy Foundation, is in the process of evaluating the impact and also the feasibility of the caregiver retreat. And so we're looking at, what the benefits the participants have got from the program. We've done that through surveys. And also we've done some one-on-one interviews, and we're currently bringing that all together to write it up in a report and submit papers on that and hopefully get those published. And Eden Robinson, just want to do a shout out to Eden Robinson, who is supervising that research piece for us at Child Unlimited. But yeah, we hope to have the results of that. It's all, at high level initial data is all very positive, that there's been a real positive change from pre-retreat to post-retreat, but we will get that written up and share that with the community, and be looking to apply for further grants and funding based on that. Yeah.
Grants and funding. And I remember a process even before we got to the survey instrument and actually gathering the data and now the analysis of the data, and we can't wait to see it published. But we had to go through ethics review. We actually had to go through an independent review board process and receive our ethics approval. And maybe you could talk a little bit about that, because it was very rigorous.
Yeah, like any research project, if you're dealing with people in any way, you need to get approval that what you're doing is ethical, applicable, and that there's no compromise for the participants when they're taking part in the research. And interestingly, one of the measurement tools to look after the participants' well-being was we did a distress scale, and a lot of the participants were actually too distressed on the scale with our first ethics application, that we actually had to go back to the ethics and say this group of caregivers are so distressed that this distress scale does not allow, it's saying them they're distressed, of course, but we need to allow them. That means that they need to come into this program so we can give them support. So we had to actually go back and get some review on that and how we managed this group of caregivers that were in need of support, but making sure that we were caring for their overall mental well-being as well during that process.
So the baseline of distress was so much more intense than we assumed, that we had to go back and say, well, wait a second, in order for us to be inclusive, we know people are in distress. That's the whole point. That's why we're bringing together this community. And
yes. Yeah, we need those safety measures in to make sure that we have all the right protections in place. But yes, these people are distressed at baseline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Which is no surprise to us, right?
Which is no surprise, right? Let's talk about how acute this can be. Okay, and so now what we've done is we've taken the first cohort through the sustainable caregiver training. And one thing that we heard loud and clear, and this has happened again and again, every time we take someone through our Angel Aid training, there's a bonding, it's a deep bonding, it's a deep witnessing, and a desire to continue And so rather than wait to continue supporting the community until after the results come back to show that they need support, we were able to secure some funding and continue with the ongoing monthly support group for that same cohort and open it up to other caregivers in Australia. And so I'm just really grateful to you and to the community for encouraging us to do that. I'm grateful to our sponsors and our donors for paying for us to be able to do that, and in particular to Megan Loden for being our co-host for that support group. So the support is available out there, and in a moment, I'm going to be sharing with you, if you're inspired by this broadcast, how you can actually donate and support the work that we do. But in closing, Kris, I really just can't wait to see where the future goes with our collaborations. And do you have any sort of final wrap-up thoughts for the community as we wrap up here?
Yeah, well, I just firstly want to thank you, Crystal, for the work you do and the leadership you show in this space. And to your point, we've actually got a caregiver meeting tonight, so I'll be online with our group tonight. They are committed to coming to that. They get the value of that connection and the support. And I challenge people to be open to joining in, being a little bit vulnerable at the start to get the supports and just the companionship through these programs. Your mental well-being is extremely important.
It works when we're in community, it works when we're showing up for each other, and that it's okay to give yourself grace, to step away and then step back in. And I
Yeah,
think that's what Angel Aid is all about, is the through line, that we're
yeah.
here for the long haul for these families. We're here for you, Kris. We're here for my family, the Barrett family, and others. So I really thank you. I really appreciate all that you do for our community and for rare disease in general. I really would like to thank Dr. Emil Kakas for trusting us with his own personal funds in order to take this to the next level, take this program through ethics review. That was really important to him as well. I'd like to thank Stephanie Buscemi and other donors who have provided support for this work. So I'm going to go off screen now and just pull up our QR codes so it's easy for people to find us. But in the meantime, I'm sending you a huge hug, Kris, across
Oh, thank you.
the world, across the ocean. I know that we'll be on more calls together in the future. And just a reminder to everybody, you can go to angelaidcares.org/give to see our whole month of wellness programming. Kris, you're in the first week, so thank you for inspiring the community during this week. And if you're interested in donating to support our work, every donation matters. You can donate today through angelaidcares.org/give. Or if you're a Microsoft employee, please donate via Benevity so that we can get the matching grant, aka.ms/angelaid. If you have a caregiver in your life or you are a caregiver, please, here are ways to connect and continue learning. You can come into our community, you can join our weekly and monthly support groups, you can follow us. We have so many inspiring messages for caregivers on our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn pages. And you can join our coalition. The Raregivers.global coalition is how we will scale these services and support on a global basis. So you can go to raregivers.global and take the pledge. It's a pledge for taking care of yourself, and that's what we'd like to offer for you today. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a beautiful evening. Kris, we'll see you again. And
Thank you.
thank you.